You guys, it took me 7 full years to figure out what full recovery from conditions like ME/CFS meant. I had ME/CFS, let's say about 8 years in, I started working on my recovery. Well, I've been working on it the whole time, but getting nowhere. So in those first 8 years, there was definitely never a moment where I was thinking, am I recovered? Every single one of the days in those 8 years, I was symptomatic and very clear that I still actively had ME/CFS. But then in the last 2 years, before I recovered, I started really working on it. And after the first year, I thought, I think I'm there. I was working out at the gym, doing strength training, doing hour-long workouts, pushing as hard as I wanted, and no post-exertional malaise. And I was traveling. I had a social life. I had a very active, full life. And I thought, I think this is it. I think it's safe to say, it's fair to say, I'm fully recovered. So this was about 9 years into my journey. But then every time I tried to bring in something else, like I started running again, and I'd run for a couple minutes and I'd get post-exertional malaise. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm clearly not recovered yet. And it was really perplexing then because I didn't understand it. Like I can do an hour at the gym, but I can't run for 3 minutes. So then over time, as I slowly started building up my ability to run again without getting symptoms, then I thought I was recovered. But then I tried going back to work, and then the symptoms would raise their ugly head again. So it was very confusing for me when to say, when am I recovered? When does that look like? And people started talking about things like, is there such a thing as full recovery? Is that even an accurate term? But after the 10 years of CFS, I thought, yeah, I'm here because I could do anything. I could do anything in my life and I wouldn't get post-exertional malaise. I wouldn't get those classic symptoms. But so then I start pronouncing my full recovery to the world. I start an Instagram account. I write a book. I start this YouTube channel. And then I'd have some days where I'd feel symptomatic and I'd think, is this it? I found I was still afraid of symptoms and really unsure of what was normal and had this expectation that I should feel good all of the time. Otherwise, that meant that I wasn't recovered. And I'd have these moments where I felt like a fraud because I was saying I was fully recovered. But then I think, wait, I'm not sure that I actually am. And so many people that I've talked to that publicly talk about their full recovery, talk about how in those initial months, years, after they proclaimed their full recovery, they're like, wait, am I there? And many people I've interviewed aren't comfortable saying they're fully recovered because like, well, I don't feel good 100% of the time. So you'll hear a lot of interviews where people say, I'm 95% recovered. Like, I don't want to make that false claim of 100% recovery. So all of this is making it sound like there is no way to determine if and when you're fully recovered. Maybe no one ever is fully recovered, but I promise you, there absolutely is. There is a crystal clear way to observe, to identify, and to measure when you are fully recovered from conditions like ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, when nervous system regulation is at the core of what was causing your symptoms, which for the overwhelming majority, we know, of chronic symptoms, this is what is at the core of what is happening. Over the almost 6 years now, or five or 6 years since I've started sharing publicly my full recovery from ME/CFS, people have been reaching out to me and asking me, because they're skeptical, understandably, because at least a few years ago, we didn't hear about a lot of people recovering, and they just were like, are you really recovered? Like, really? Like, you have no symptoms? Like, your CFS is completely gone? And I'd say, yes, it is. But here's where it gets complicated, because understanding what we understand now, that when nervous system regulation is at the core of what's happening, this can present itself as ME/CFS, as long COVID, as a vaccine injury, as POTS, as multiple chemical sensitivities, as fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, so many different things. And we've learned that for a large portion of the cases, the specific diagnoses doesn't matter. And the recovery approach, although not a carbon copy the same for everybody, is generally the same when we're working with brain retraining and nervous system regulation. So this makes your head explode a little bit when you think about it this way. So I'm like, yes, my chronic fatigue syndrome is gone. No CFS symptoms. There is no criteria on the planet where I would meet like the diagnostic criteria for CFS. Not even close. But then, I don't know, 2-3 years after my CFS recovery, life started getting really hairy again and stressful. And I had a lot going on, and I was working jobs that I hated, and my life was not in line with how I wanted to be living it. But I was pretending everything was okay. And I was pushing so much down and putting on this fake face where just like, I'm fine, when inside I'm screaming, but trying not to hear it. I am not fine. So I started for the first time in my life having chronic lower back pain. Never had this in my life. And it was quite debilitating. It was inconsistent, and it was worse when my stress was worse. I don't know, flag there. But some days I had to get my husband to put my shoes on for me. There's just no way I could put my shoes on. Many days I'd wake up and I'd have to limp over to the couch, and I would sit back on a pile of pillows so slowly because it was just excruciating pain getting myself back into that position until I could settle into those pillows, and then I could not move for about the first hour of my day until it slowly subsided. And when life was more stressful and I was shoving more things down, the pain was worse. And then I finally thought, Raelan, and now I'm talking to myself in the third person, not at all annoying. I thought to myself, me, you know better. You know what this is. You've read the book Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno, and you've heard all the people on your channel talk about how it helped them with their long COVID recovery or their ME/CFS recovery. You know what this is. Like, why are you not fixing this? So I actually started using the Curable app for it. I was already well aware of this app, so I thought, let's give it a try. And it teaches you the brain science of all of this, and it also has brain retraining activities in it. So I did my first 10-minute brain retraining activity the next time I had this back pain, and by the end of the 10 minutes, it was completely gone. It came back again, and I had to keep doing the work with Curable, but very quickly, I'd say within a couple of weeks, back pain gone, hasn't been an issue since. And if you're interested in trying Curable, it's excellent. I have an affiliate link for it that gets you 6 weeks for free. And most people say they learn everything they need to learn in just those 6 weeks. So here's the question. When people say, is your CFS gone? Well, yeah, it's gone, but now the back pain's here. And this is what it does. I believe the term for it is symptom imperative, but your brain is smart and it's going to give you something that you believe. If your family had a history of chronic migraines, it's going to give you chronic migraines. So saying you're 100% recovered isn't about having symptoms or not, because your nervous system is going to continue to send you symptoms for the rest of your life. You hope that it does. If you're not getting symptoms, you're in trouble. People who don't experience pain do not live very long, because those are the alarms and the alerts that we need to know that we're touching a hot stove and we need to pull away our hand or stop eating something poisonous, or that we've broken our leg and we need to rest so that it can heal. So full recovery isn't about not having symptoms. And also important to note that just because these symptoms might be caused because of stress or suppressed emotions or, neuroplastic in nature, they're just as real as the symptoms that you would experience if someone severed one of your limbs with a knife. So have no mistake that whatever symptoms we're talking about, they're all real and they're all legit. And if you are going through or have gone through something like ME/CFS or long COVID, you will continue to have symptoms for the rest of your life, some sort of symptoms. Every human on the planet, except for those really rare, unfortunate people that don't get any and don't live long, are going to have symptoms. So here is the insight that changes everything. Here is how you know how you can define and put that very specific line in the sand that says CFS before, recovery after. Recovery is when you no longer have chronic symptoms, because you now understand the nature of chronic symptoms. They pop up, you hear them, You have the tools to deal with them. You understand that some sort of emotional or physical threat assessment brought on those symptoms, and that fear around those symptoms is what makes them chronic. So when you no longer have the fear around those symptoms, and also the second really important piece is that you understand that, as Nicole Sachs explains, we have this sort of emotional reservoir. Think of it like a giant beaker in our chest where all the stuff from the day comes up and we pile it in and we pile it in. We deal with little parts of it, but really we wouldn't want to deal with every emotion in its full intensity the second it comes up. It's inconvenient and unsafe. You don't want to have a rage attack when you're driving, or, blow up in a meeting at work and get fired. So it's good repression in bits, but we also have to have an awareness that this reservoir can only hold so much. And we need to take scoops out every once in a while through therapy, through journaling, through meditation, through just taking moments to feel the emotions and release them. So when you understand these two components, symptoms are never chronic again, which means that your chronic condition is gone. So you no longer have long COVID or POTS or whatever it is. You are fully recovered when you have these two things. You now know exactly how to respond to symptoms, and you have the tools to deal with the emotions in your life. And these are the things that ensure that your chronic condition is gone, and why the hundreds of people I've now interviewed will tell you time and time again that they don't fear their condition coming back. And why you hear the people who run programs and coaches saying you can do some short-term alleviation of symptoms, but if you're not getting at the bigger picture, being that emotional reservoir, whether it's coming from trauma you're carrying around, or living an inauthentic life, or stressful life circumstances, or pretending to be someone who you're not, whatever it is, then yes, those chronic conditions will keep coming back. But once you understand it and have the tools to deal with it, you don't have to worry about having a chronic condition, this chronic condition, ever again. If you know or strongly suspect, or even are just a little bit curious about whether nervous system regulation and brain retraining will be the key to your recovery, as it has been for countless other people out there facing these really tough conditions, I invite you to join my completely free 5-day brain retraining course. There's a link in the video description and also pinned in the comments. And in it, you can learn the insights and the strategies that you need to get started working on your recovery right now and make this the year that you too fully get past this. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the free course.